Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Commissioners meeting for the City of Henderson, Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. If you would, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
I knew I would forget something. Commissioner Pruitt is absent. Commissioner Staton?
Here.
Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Vowles?
Here.
Mayor Austin?
Here. We have three presentations today on our presentation agenda, and one we have taken off. I just wanted to let you know in case anybody's here for that. The presentation for the new outdoor community skate park has been pulled off the agenda because there's still some work to be done on that, and it'll be added probably at the next meeting. But so our first presentation is the really exciting one for a lot of these people, I'm sure, for all of y'all, I'm sure, the Henderson Water Utility Audit Presentation. So, Todd, welcome.
Thank you. Our audit was presented to our board last night at our meeting and approved. Stan Sira from Ronnie Hancock is here to do a brief presentation for you all and take any questions you all have. You all should have been provided the audit report with your packets last week. Stan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you see me?
Yes,
sir.
You're good.
You're looking good, too.
Oh, appreciate that.
Go ahead, Stan.
All right. First of all, I'd just like to say hello to everybody and good afternoon to Mayor and Commissioners. And I'd just like to say a happy early Thanksgiving to everybody. I know everybody's getting ready for that this time of year. Before I get into the audit report, I'd first just like to say, thank Todd and Tom and the staff at Henderson Water Utility for all they do to make our audit go smoothly. We had, like Todd had already said, we had our exit conference with management on Friday. We had the board.
It locked up on that.
Yeah, you froze, Stan.
Okay.
It seems to be on his.
Okay.
end.
That's fine. I'll try to fill in what he was going to say.
Yeah.
Like I said, he met with he had our exit conference last week, and then he presented it to the board last night. We had a clean audit opinion. There was no findings or anything along those lines. The numbers were pretty much in line with as we presented during the year. There was there was no adjustments at all during the audit period. I'll take any questions you all have about the report.
Are there any questions for Todd on the Henderson Water Utility Audit?
I think everything looked like it was in good shape.
Yeah, it's in very good shape, I think. That's what the gentleman was getting ready to tell us. It's
Yes.
in really good
Yep.
shape.
Took a little
I would like to make a motion that we accept HWU's audit report.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Ah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next is a report on gain. And we have two young ladies with us tonight that are going to introduce a new community benefit called GAIN. So I'll turn it over to you. Just introduce yourself so we'll have the names on the record.
Okay, I'm Susan Sauls. I'm Executive Director of the Volunteer and Information Center.
Mary Denham, currently not too long ago, retired from Henderson Christian Community Outreach, but we've decided to start something else.
Okay, good.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Before we start that, I'm going to just say a couple words. The nonprofits here in town have been trying to get this program over to Henderson County for about 5 years. Melissa Clements and several of us took a tour of the Evansville Christian Life Center many years ago, and we have it here. And as you well know, we on the application for folks to apply to this program, we have 25 nonprofits listed, and that's not all of them. So we are so lucky to have that many nonprofits that work together, work very closely together. But as most nonprofits, directors do not have time to work with people on an individual basis. So as you'll see when we play this video, this program brings in...
I'm a person working, living, and existing in poverty. She went through the...
Then we'll talk. You're fine.
I'm gonna go sit down.
Go ahead and let it run, Phil.
Uh-oh, maybe we'll watch the video.
I'm a person working, living, and existing in poverty and working my way out through riches out of poverty and getting ahead.
Getting ahead has empowered me. It's given me permission to think about myself. I had a very low self-esteem due to various issues, but this class has shown me that I can do it, I have a voice, I'm valuable, and I'm capable.
The most different thing for me is right now is my lifestyle. I've changed. I had a bad criminal past. I was homeless. I'm no longer homeless. I've gotten a job. My stability's a lot better. I have gained custody of one of my children, my oldest boy, so he's living with me now, and everything's been going great since.
When I walked into the Getting Ahead class, I just took it as any other normal college class. And the funniest thing is the first 2 weeks, I wasn't a big fan, but going through the class, I learned about hidden rules and all that good stuff. And afterwards, I think it gave my personal power a more positive place to go.
The most significant thing about getting ahead in my life was identifying poverty, not just by being low income, but by having 11 different resources that contribute to that. And when I was able to identify my strengths and weaknesses within those 11 different resources, I realized that I had gained a tool that's going to help me throughout my whole life.
Getting ahead is the participant portion of Bridges, where participants come and they learn not about how to live in poverty, but they learn about how to investigate their daily lives.
It's a workbook that people do in groups of 10 or 12 with a facilitator, and they investigate together the impact that poverty's had on them and their community.
When you co-facilitate Getting Ahead, it's all about not me telling you what to do, or the book telling you what to do, or the facilitator telling you what to do, but you telling me what you want, and then us being able to sit down and set goals.
YSU started to utilize the Getting Ahead material, and I actually worked it into a curriculum in another class that I was teaching and thought, let's see how this could work. It actually worked beautifully. It really did.
We are now doing Getting Ahead for both our city drug court and our county drug court, but it was because of the change they saw in one resident. She's graduated from drug court. She has graduated from our program. She lives in our transitional housing program. She is now a full-time employee at the city mission. The principals were...
We had a lady come to us from New Orleans, and she was a victim of Hurricane Katrina. Seeing her grow and go through the Getting Ahead classes, when she came in, she had no job, no place to stay, of course, and limited resources. She went through the Getting Ahead, and just seeing those light bulbs go off in her head with that aha process. When she got ready to leave, she left working a job, full-time job, as a manager at one of the local restaurants and has her own place. And now she's in a place where she wants to come back and give back to the community, because she said if it wasn't for, you know, Emma Norton and also going through the Getting Ahead class, I don't know where I would have been. So to me, it's just like we did something right. We're doing things really well here.
As people begin to move out of poverty and they begin to build their resources, they encounter barriers. And when they encounter barriers, then the middle class steering committee that includes people in poverty now begin to knock those barriers over.
I am very excited about our partnership with Ivy Tech Community College. They're the first community college in the country to run Getting Ahead as a way of addressing student retention and achievement. And to me, the Getting Ahead program, I call it the high-octane fuel in the tank. It is the piece that will drive this forward.
Since completing Getting Ahead program, the most important thing to me is the drive and the ambition and the will to do something.
The difference that Getting Ahead has made in my life is phenomenal. It has allowed myself to enter into roles of leadership. And leadership is key to your self-concept, your self-image, your self-esteem.
Since completing Getting Ahead, the thing that is most different for me is that I now have people I can depend on. I have role models, and I have friends, I have mentors, and they help give me the strength and courage I need to continue in my path to self-sufficiency. For someone that was considering to take Getting Ahead, I would say you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. I guarantee that there is something you're going to learn from the curriculum that you're going to walk with you for the rest of your life.
Selected families one night a week. So we will stay with our families for 4 months. And then there's also staying ahead. So once they've completed this and graduated from this program, we will stay in contact with them. I think that's what we need to get our folks that continue to be in that cycle of poverty out of poverty. We'll turn it over to Susan for a few minutes here.
The reason why it's important for you all to know what we're embarking upon is because it's the citizens in this community who are, some of whom are in poverty. This is an opportunity for them to get themselves out of poverty. Nobody's going to teach them how to do it. We walk alongside with them and show them the ropes, and it's up to them to make the decisions to move themselves out of poverty. It's something that I hope none of us have ever known, but there are so many folks who are in that cycle of poverty, but there are so many folks who also want to get out of that cycle of poverty, and this is an opportunity for them to do that. The number of nonprofit agencies who have come together to make this happen, like Mary said, there's 25 agencies, with 4 of us being the main ones who are steering everything to make sure that it's successful. The first one starts in January. We plan to have another one after this first one to see what the successes are. We're hoping that all 12 families will graduate and move on to the Getting Ahead part of it, to the next level, rather than just providing this information for them and letting them alone to be on their own. We'll walk with them for the next 18 months to 2 years or so to make sure that there are successes. Audubon Kids Zone had the first one last year. The next one starts in January. Then we'll have another one also. The second half of the year, Audubon Kids Zone will also be doing another cohort at the beginning of this year. So we're excited about this. We wanted you all to know about this because as the leaders of our community, these are residents who are part of our community. And the more folks who are living a better life according to themselves, it's going to be better for not only us and them, but also for you and Henderson. So that's why it's important.
Okay, so
anybody have any questions about it? Mayor, thank you so much.
Okay.
And Commissioners,
I have
we
read
appreciate
your brochures and things, and I really think that there's some opportunities and some some things that can have good results out of this. And you know, if even just the majority of the people that go through the sessions can better themselves or with some additional help and additional resources, then very worthwhile. So thank you and Mary for taking this on. It's a challenge. It's going to take time and effort, and by y'all and by your participants. So, but thank you for taking it on, and good luck in the process.
Thank you. We hope to come back and let you know about all the successes that we have. How's that?
Thank you.
Is that a deal?
We
Please make your own video.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have a report on the indoor skateboarding project. Is Mr. Glick here?
Yes.
All right. Come right up.
You'll have to forgive me. I was prepared mostly to speak about the outdoor skate park situation.
Yes.
So I don't really have a whole lot to say other than any questions you might need answered, but I am the executive director of GIFT Skateboarding. We are a newly formed nonprofit organization here in town. Our mission is to provide safe and accessible spaces and programs centered around skateboarding. So what that looks like at the moment is we're constructing an indoor, privately managed, open to the public, free skate park in Audubon Village Shopping Center on 41. I think this is really important to the community. You may not see the local outdoor skate parks getting utilized a whole lot throughout, the entirety of the year. But I can say, from a lot of traveling that we've done around the area, different indoor skate parks, we see that this can really bring together a wide age range and demographic, not just locally, but from the surrounding communities. Just wanted to kind of give you guys an update.
I'm glad you did.
Let you
Thank
know,
you.
What we're doing, and
Yeah.
like I said, if there's any questions or anything, please feel free to ask.
When do you think it's going to open?
Not really sure. We've got a little behind schedule at the moment due to illness over the past few weeks. Got a little bit to work out in the next few weeks, but we're hoping very soon.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing.
Yes, sure.
What building is it in?
Audubon Village on 41, where Columbia Sportswear River Fruits is.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think it's a really cool project that you're taking on there as well. Do you do anything to track like your numbers of users, or do you have any kind of plan for that?
We will be, yeah. So everyone's going to be required to sign in and have a waiver on file and things like that. So we're going to have a pretty good database of age ranges and all that. So.
Yeah, it'd be a great tool to have, just to know who's out there and who's
Sure.
using it. So.
Maybe you could come back in 6 months or so and give an update.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
And Matt, when Jamie's ready to come back, we'll put you on the next schedule, maybe December 13th.
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Good deal. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I really like hearing these type of presentations because it's a constant reminder that it takes a lot of people to do a lot of good. And hearing from Matt and Susan and Mary and others, you just realize how many people out in the community really care about tackling a lot of different types of issues that affect the city. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate all the work that all of you are doing.
Very good mix of opportunities there. Okay, thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda, and we have 3 sets of minutes and 3 other items.
We have the minutes of the February 28th, 2022 special called meeting, the March 8th, 2022 regular meeting, and the March 15th, 2022 called Joint City Utility Commission work session. Resolution number 39-22, resolution authorizing acceptance of grant in the amount of $219,988 from the United States Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration for airport development on the terminal building roof, and authorizing mayor to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city of Henderson. Resolution number 40-22, resolution authorizing and directing the city attorney's office to proceed with action to collect outstanding debts owed to the city of Henderson, including judicial action if deemed appropriate. And municipal order 71-22, municipal order authorizing purchase of a 2008 Ford F-350 4x4 rescue utility truck for the fire department from the Vischer Ferry Volunteer Fire Company, Vischer Ferry Fire District, Rexford, New York, in the amount of $35,000.
Is there any item that a commissioner would like to take off of the consent agenda for further discussion? Being none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call?
Before we get a roll call,
Okay.
I just wanted to point out that we have been joined by Commissioner Pruitt. And Commissioner Pruitt, can you hear us okay? Is everything feeding?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, just wanted to make sure
I can
before
hear you.
before we voted, I wanted to make sure you were on.
Okay.
All right.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Next, we have a couple of second readings, and the first second reading is an ordinance accepting public improvements at River's Edge.
Ordinance number 33-22, ordinance accepting public improvements. An ordinance accepting public improvements consisting of roadways in River's Edge new lots 3 and 4 and remaining lot number 2.
Is there a motion to approve second reading, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Vowles will be
I'm going to abstain.
not voting on this. Any questions or comments on the second reading? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Next is an ordinance authorizing issuance of GO bonds for Henderson Municipal Power and Light projects that were discussed in details at the last meeting.
Excuse me. Ordinance number 34-22, summary of ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Henderson, Kentucky, authorizing the issuance of its City of Henderson, Kentucky General Obligation Bond Series 2023A in the approximate aggregate principal amount of $21,625,000, which amount may be increased by up to $2,165,000 or decreased by any amount for the purpose of financing the costs of, 1, the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of a fiber-to-home infrastructure system to provide fiber internet and voice services to customers of the city's municipal electric and fiber optic utility system, and B, an advanced metering infrastructure system for the city's electrical generation and distribution facilities, and 2, the conversion of certain existing above-ground electrical facilities to underground electrical facilities, approving the form of the bonds, authorizing designated officers to execute and deliver the bonds, authorizing and directing the filing of a notice or notices with the state local debt officer, providing for the payment and security of the bonds, establishing a bond payment fund for the bonds, affirming the existing sinking fund, authorizing acceptance of the bid of the purchaser for the bonds, and repealing inconsistent ordinances. This ordinance authorizes the issuance of a series of general obligation bonds designated as General Obligation Bonds Series 2023A, the bonds, by the City of Henderson, Kentucky, the city, for the purposes of, 1, financing all or a portion of the cost of A, the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of 1, a fiber-to-home infrastructure system to provide fiber internet and voice services to customers of the city's municipal electric and fiber optic utility system, and 2, an advanced metering infrastructure system for the city's electrical generation and distribution facilities, and B, the conversion of certain existing above-ground electrical facilities to underground electrical facilities, collectively the project. 2, paying capitalized interest on the bonds if desirable. 3, paying all or a portion of the cost of credit enhancement on the bonds if any. And 4, paying all or a portion of the cost of the issuance of the bonds. Provisions are made in the ordinance for the payment of the bonds and the security therefore. for the application of the proceeds of the bonds for the establishment of a bond payment fund for the continuation of the city's previously established sinking fund, for the transfer of excess electric and fiber optic utility system revenues to the general fund of the city on a subordinated basis to other outstanding obligations secured by electric system revenues in amounts equal to the debt service on the bonds, and for certain covenants of the city with respect to the bonds. The bonds are to be sold at public competitive sale and shall mature or be subject to mandatory sinking fund redemption in varying amounts on December 1st, 2023, and each December 1st thereafter through December 1st, 2047. The bonds pledge the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city, and provision is made for the collection of a tax to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds, subject to certain credits as provided in Section 8 of the ordinance. The sale of the bonds is contingent upon the satisfaction of the requirements and conditions of the city regarding the project, as required by KRS Section 83A.060. The following Section 8 of the ordinance is set forth in its entirety. Section 8, General Obligation. The bonds shall be full general obligations of the city, and for the payment of the bonds and the interest thereon, the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city are hereby pledged for the prompt payment thereof. During the period the bonds are outstanding, there shall be, and there hereby is levied on all of the taxable property in the city, in addition to all other taxes, without limitation as to rate, a direct tax annually in an amount sufficient to pay the principal of and the interest on the bonds as and when due, it being hereby found and determined that the current tax rates of the city are within all applicable limitations. The tax shall be and is hereby ordered, computed, certified, levied, and extended upon the tax duplicate and collected by the same officers in the same manner, and at the same time the taxes for general purposes for each of the years are certified, extended, and collected. The tax shall be placed before and in preference to all other items and for the full amount thereof, provided, however, that in each year, to the extent that the other lawfully available funds of the city are available for the payment of the bonds and are appropriated for such purpose, the amount of such direct tax upon all of the taxable property in the city shall be reduced by the amount of such other funds so available and appropriated.
Is there a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
No.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
All right. Next is second reading of a partner audience, ordinance that approves the adoption of rate adjustments to pay for the bonds.
Ordinance number 35-22, ordinance adopting schedule of electric rates and services. An ordinance approving and adopting a schedule of electric rates and services for electric power and energy furnished by Henderson Municipal Power and Light to its customers and consumers, adjusting the rates in residential schedule, Schedule R, General Service Rate Schedule, Schedule GS, Housing Authority, Church and Public School Rate Schedule, Schedule HCS, Demand Rate Schedule, Schedule D, Residential Distributed Generation Rate Schedule, Schedule RDG, General Service Distributed Generation Rate Schedule, Schedule GSDG, and Housing Authority Church and Public Distributed Generation Rate Schedule, Schedule HCSDG, Demand Distributed Generation Rate Schedule, Schedule DDG, Private Rental Lighting and Public Street Lighting Service Schedule, Schedule SL, and Miscellaneous Rate Schedule, Schedule Miscellaneous, and to become effective for all services billed on and after January 1st, 2023.
Is there a motion to approve second reading, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Just wanted to point out what you pointed out earlier. We had a very lengthy discussion about the projects and the rates at our last meeting. And so if anybody wants to go back and look at that discussion, it would be worthwhile to do so.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
No.
Commissioner Staton,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Commissioner Val.
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Aye. Next, we have a first reading of an ordinance adopting revised job classifications and pay plan.
Ordinance number 36-22, ordinance amending pay plan. Ordinance amending and adopting a revised job classification and pay plan for the city of Henderson, which eliminates the position of fire captain and adds the position of fire division chief in the fire department, and increases the annual pay of hazardous duty employees by $5,000 and increases the pay of non-hazardous duty employees by 3%.
Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. I want to read this. The proposed pay plan revision is desired by the Board of Commissioners to show support for recruitment and retention, which is very important right now, of all hazardous duty and non-hazardous duty employees. And the board is pleased to present the following revisions, and it's just what was read there, that it would be a $5,000 increase for hazardous and a 3% increase for non-hazardous. Is there a motion to approve, please?
We
got that? I'm sorry. Any questions, comments?
I just wanted to touch, should we hear from Robert Gunter about the financials of this and how the numbers are fitting together?
We can.
Robert, would you mind to come up, please, sir? And the reason I'm asking is because on the heels of this particular ordinance is an ordinance to adjust our occupational tax. And I wanted to hear from you about the numbers and then make a few comments, because I think it's very important to understand how the two fit together.
Okay, well, I didn't come prepared for the topic. I gave the city manager an estimate of what the occupational tax would generate based on the prior 12 months of revenue. And if we're looking at, if the board passes that increase, it'll go from 149 to 165. So based on that, we're thinking right at 1.3 million in additional revenue. Based on our calculations on the $5,000 raise for all the hazardous, plus the matching benefits of pension and workers' comp, we're looking right at 900-something thousand for that. And then to do a 3% increase for the non-hazardous, it's approximately 380,000. So they would almost net against each other. We're probably $270,000 shy, but usually we're with the vacancies, we usually come in well below our estimates on the cost of salaries and benefits. So really do think this will be almost a wash based on our projected revenues and our coming in at 94% of our expenses.
Thank you. I wanted to make some comments, but I wanted to hear that from you first. I think it's important to note that we've taken on a lot of large projects. Obviously at the last meeting we approved almost a $10.5 million sports complex and the bonding for it. We have spent some money luring in some large economic development opportunities. We've spent some money in an attempt to lure in a residential development that hopefully is right around the corner there. And all of these things we've been able to fit within our existing budget. This specific issue, when we're talking about hazardous duty pay, and I'll separate the two when I'm making the comments, when we're talking about hazardous duty pay, in my opinion, and I don't know if it's shared by others on the board, but in my opinion, a few years ago we were made aware of nearly a crisis situation in our police department specifically. Our police department was 10 to 15 people understaffed. Their pool of applicants was shrinking quite a bit. And we took a step 2 or 3 years ago, I think 3 years ago, where we increased the police pay by $2 an hour across the board. That has made a little bit of a difference, but they're still understaffed. The demands from the state in terms of having school resource officers are taxing our department because it's pulling people away from the streets. And we're still seeing small job pools, and we're patching holes with people who are retired, who have come back to work for our police department, which is fantastic. But in order to ensure the long-term success of the department and the safety of our community, we have to be able to compete with the communities around us. And even though we don't have as large of a tax base as in Owensboro or Evansville, what ends up happening, or at least what we've been hearing has been ending up happening, is that people will sign on and they'll work for our police department or our fire department for a few years, and then it's very enticing for them to move on to some department that is close to Henderson but pays more money. And so in order to accomplish this, this was an additional expense on our budget. And it adds up to, like you said, between $1.2 and $1.3 million a year. And it's an annual expense that will be there forever. So it's important that we do find the funding to match this in our budget. And I can't think of a better call to add funding than to ensure the safety of our community. I am not usually in favor of any kind of rate increases. I would rather see us take things out where we can or cut where we can. But in this case, our police and our fire departments are the people that rush into danger on behalf of our community. And ensuring that we have strong departments and recognizing the sacrifices that they make and recognizing the efforts that they put in and day out, to me, this is a very worthwhile thing. And $5,000 across the board for our police and fire are well-deserved. I hope it serves to improve morale in both departments, and that both departments recognize that we support you and that we're going to continue to support you. And I hope it does really good for recruitment and retention efforts from here moving forward. Thank you.
Well said, Commissioner. Any other comments?
The city's only as good as the people who are protecting it.
Yeah.
And this is one way to reward you guys and gals. And I know it's not where we need to be, but it's a step in the right direction.
Yes. Yeah, we're still, yes, you're exactly right. Yeah.
I'd say I agree with all of that. I think it's both earned on behalf of our employees for the city and needed to be competitive, to remain competitive in hazardous duty employees and the rest of our city employees as well.
Absolutely.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I don't know if Commissioner Pruitt has any comments.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
can.
sir.
Yeah, I echo everything that has been said, especially from Brad. Safety is our number one job, to make sure all our citizens are safe and making sure that when they call 911, somebody responds. So I'll be in favor of this.
Thank you, sir.
And I think it's important to reiterate what Commissioner Bowles has said too. Not only are we doing the hazardous pay, but in the same ordinance, we're adding 3% across the board for our non-hazardous pay. Frankly, because it's been a very tough year with inflation. We're at the mid-year point. We've reviewed our budget, and we are going to move forward in trying to ensure that those positions are a little bit better paid as well, because we're having some of the same issues on the non-hazardous side too in terms of recruiting and retaining employees.
Mayor, I'd like to echo what Commissioner Staton said, and I appreciate the fact that y'all looked across the board of all employees to provide something to them. I will say, for example, sanitation is somewhat in a crisis now, and we pull people from other departments to keep our sanitation crews going in the city. So I want to say hats off to our HR department, who continue to work very hard to attract new employees into the city, and thank y'all for making our salaries competitive with our competing private industry and other municipalities.
Well said, Buzzy. Okay. We have a motion and a second, and a roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowles?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Aye. Next, we have a associated ordinance amending the business and occupational license fee by a very small amount.
Ordinance number 37-22, ordinance relating to business and occupational license fees. An ordinance amending Section 21-33 occupational license tax payment required of Article 3 business and occupational license fees by changing the rate of occupational license tax for compensation paid or payable for work done or services performed or rendered in the city by an employee from 1 49/100% to 1 65/100%, and changing the rate of the net profits from 1 49/100% to 1 65/100% beginning January 1st, 2023, which will be prorated beginning January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023, and amending Section 21-48, beginning date of this ordinance to January 1st, 2023.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Mayor Austin.
Next, we have a municipal order authorizing the lease of the former Jefferson Elementary School on South Green Street.
Municipal order number 72-22, municipal order authorizing lease of the former Jefferson Elementary School between the Board of Education of Henderson County and the City of Henderson, and authorizing mayor to execute the lease.
Chief, you want to, before we get a motion, you want to say anything about this? Go
Yes,
ahead.
Mayor, I'd like to say a few things
Okay.
to the commission. First off, a huge thank you for the vote you all just done for the pay raises across the board. We appreciate it. There's people here that work nights, there's people here who are off duty, there's people that are leaving to take calls, and they're all here to say thank you for that, for noticing and supporting us. We appreciate that. But back to the Jefferson School, we take training very serious at HPD. Our average hours per training is over 100 plus, which puts us at the very top in the state. The minimum requirement's 40 hours of training each year, and that's usually where most departments stay. So our training division's very busy, and we try to stay ahead of the curve, and we do a lot of the, as the training comes out from the academy, we push it out to our officers. We want to be on the cutting edge of all training. And this facility is going to help us do that. Before the Jefferson discussions, we would train in borrowed locations, abandoned buildings, wherever we could get our emergency response team to go into a building, we would use that facility. HPD, currently we work with the Sheriff's Department, we work with the Kentucky State Police. The last training we had at Jefferson Elementary School, we literally had outside agencies from other counties reaching out saying, hey, why didn't we get invited? We wanted to come to that active shooter training. Well, it wasn't really open, just the word got out. So I think this facility is going to allow us not only train our officers and protect the citizens here, it's going to help the surrounding areas as it gets a little larger. I want to touch on just a few things that we'll be using this for, and I know this has been a long meeting, but from the smallest thing, it will give us an office and a desk and hopefully a phone line where our south units can go in and do a follow-up instead of driving all the way to the police department. We currently do not supply our officers with telephones, so a lot of calls are on the phone with follow-ups and such. So they'll drive from Sand Lane all the way to the police department sometimes just to make contact and get that victim's information or something. So that's the smallest scale. One of the larger scale things it's going to provide is, I've already mentioned, our emergency response team, which is very active. They train one weekend out of each month, 3 days in a row, and they stay very up to date. We have a Norris Tactical that comes and works with them, and they have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to train. The kind of training they do, you need different spaces, you need different rooms, different hallways, and this school is going to provide that and then some. So it's going to be awesome for them to have a place to actually go and train. Another thing we have is a bike patrol. We have over 15 bikes. We have a closet full of parts. We have stuff that we really don't have room to even house. This facility is over 48,000 square feet, so I think we're going to be able to accommodate some of that stuff. Other things we have, water operations, hostage negotiations, they all have equipment, they all have files. They all need their own space to work. Another big one, defensive tactics. We have to stay very current and train on use of force scenarios from the lowest level all the way up. And hopefully, when we have hand-to-hand type interactions, we can keep those from escalating up to anything any worse, and not using impact weapons. This gives us a gymnasium. We can put pads down. Currently, if we do that, it disrupts the whole department in the training room. And it actually sounds like people are going to go through the floors sometimes, too, when they get to throwing each other around. So it gives us an area for that. We have a virtual training room at the police department, our fax machine. We'd love to get that up and going and allow each of you and even the public at times to come in and see some of the scenarios and things we do. We'll now have room to do that without bringing people into the police department during daily business. We'll have a shoot room. One of the big things is if you borrow a school to go do active shooter training when they're not in session, of course you can't tear it up. You can't shoot all over the wall, with paint and all that stuff. So now we can set this up and use it as real life as we want to. We can put doors up, we can knock them in, we can do the simulations, and it's going to be very real life training. So that's something that's going to be really, really helpful for us. And not even just the training. I want to point out, disaster relief with what happened last year with the tornadoes and all that stuff earlier this year. We could set up 75 or 100 cots in that gymnasium. There's a kitchen there. I'm not sure what's left of it, but we could even put some equipment in there to at least serve people food and get through. Our officers, when winter ice storms hit and they can't make it home, we have several officers that live out in our county, outside of our county, in Indiana. There's a place where they could go and stay and not have to worry about that. But the big one is, that I want to talk about, the big one is the active shooter training. There's probably no one in this country that's not been affected by watching the active shooter training or the active shooter things going on, especially like in Uvalde, Texas. This gives us an actual school with hallways, with crossways, with restrooms. It has a cafeteria, it has a library, it has a gymnasium. That is something that's somewhat unheard of, to be able to take that and turn it into a training facility. And we will have top-notch. Our officers in Henderson will be able to use this building, and we will be top-notch and ready when and if, and hopefully, pray to God, never it happens here. And on the active shooter thing, I'd like to let the commission know also, I have a meeting January 9th with the Director of Training from the Criminal Justice Department, Dr. Frank Kabala, and also with the State School Marshal, Ben Wilcox. Through the school system and in contact with the State School Security Office, we've let them know that we had this school. They are very interested, for all the reasons I just told you of how unique this is, that they are interested in coming and possibly conducting school resource officer training in Western Kentucky here in Henderson. So we're going to have those discussions in January, and City Manager, I'll let you know more about that, and Mayor-elect, and we'll see how that goes. But that, to me, is really a big deal. We could actually have some say and be a player in the training that goes in Western Kentucky. So I'm really proud of that. And I don't know if many of you know, there's also a training facility that's getting a lot of traction in Madisonville. It's going to be a Western Department of Criminal Justice training facility. And unless something's changed, it was moving ahead and looks like it's actually going to happen. They've done a feasibility study and they're moving through. And even with that being said, there's also been conversations about when the Western facility is doing their basic training for all of Western Kentucky, perhaps they can come up and do the school portion, the active shooter portion here in Henderson. So anyway, for me, it's an old school, but I think the potential and the partnerships and whatever are unlimited. So that's just a few things that I wanted to go over with you. Is there any questions or anything at all?
I just want to say we appreciate you and the city manager working together on this, and our school superintendent. for working on this. We got a very favorable situation to get this building for a lease, and it's extremely favorable. And but it'll help the school system as well with their
Yes.
resource officers. And so thank you for your work and working with the city manager and the school superintendent. And it took everybody to make this work. And I think it's going to be a really good thing for our community.
Yes. Mayor, if I could just echo, we are working so well with the school system right now. The partnership is very strong, and this just shows exactly what you said, the continued support for one another. And I think that partnership has allowed us to move forward and allowed this to happen.
If you don't mind, mention where we were 18 months ago with school resource officers and where we are today, and including the college.
Yes, 18 months or so ago, we had one school resource officer in the school. And then actually, the manpower got to the point where that officer was pulled out of the school. We notified the schools, we can no longer provide a school resource officer. It wasn't even officers then, it was officer. So we tried a hybrid off-duty type thing where it was for overtime and some different things. But long story short, we didn't have anybody in the schools. Right now, we have built the school resource officer program up. We're looking to have 2 in the high school, which is very much needed for a school that big. We will have 1 at North Middle School. We currently have 1 at Central Academy, and we have 1 also now rotating around to the elementary schools. That's brand new, just started this year. And we also have 1 at the community college. So all those positions are filled, except for we're still 1 short. We have 1 at the high school instead of 2, but the goal is to have 2. So yeah, to say we've changed our coverage in the schools is a vast understatement.
Great.
And I want to commend the chief and staff for reaching out and finding retired police officers, law enforcement people that have retired from other positions within the state. And it's made a big change in our school safety program. And I do, in addition to you, mayors, commend Dr. Bob Lawson and Chad Thompson for working very close with the police department to make all this happen. So I think our community is much better off today for all your efforts.
Absolutely. And you know, one last thing I'll say, I went out to the school board shortly after we had all the SROs in force, and they wanted me to talk. And basically, the reason the question was they wanted to know, are we ready if something happens here? So I didn't really know how to answer that question. You know, you don't want to say, oh my gosh, we're so ready. You know, you don't ever want to say something like that and be overconfident. But what I told the school board and what I'll tell you as a commission is, I don't know if we're 100% ready for every scenario, but I can tell you this. If something happens in one of our schools or businesses or somewhere here in Henderson, we will be there within minutes, and we will take care of that issue within minutes. We will go to wherever that threat is, and we will neutralize that threat. There will be no doubt, no question. We've had active shooter training, and everyone in this room wearing blue will echo that. So I don't know how it will turn out, but I can tell you this. We will respond, and it will be quickly, and we will do the best job we can.
And I think it's important to also recognize the gentleman in the back with the fire department. They too will have been involved with your active shooter training. They also will be able to use the facility possibly for their training purposes. Scott or Chad, do you have anything y'all want to add to that? Or
I would like to say on their behalf, again, as I'm talking way more than I wanted to. As I went to training and we talked about active shooter training and rapid response, and I brought up the notion of rescue task force. That's where we go in, we make a zone warm or cool, and then the fire department comes in and comes in behind us in an active environment and gets the wounded out, which is a big deal because, you know, it's a lot of times with things like this, it's blood loss is what's killing the victims. So as I brought that up to several other departments throughout the state, no one participated in that and didn't really even know what I was talking about. So I think that says a lot of our fire department to do that and work with us and put themselves in harm's way in that way to help us get victims out of the building.
Say one other thing on use of the school. I think it's really, I think you've said unique, but it's also just a really high use of that property. You know, we have several older schools in Henderson, and most of them don't get any use like that. Yeah. So I commend you all for finding a good use for that school.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Good work. And, thanks all of the hazardous duty folks that are here tonight with us, and we appreciate your work, and thank you very much for what you do. Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt? Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Aye. As everybody knows, we try to work every way we can with the county government, and they try to work with us, and they've been very, in some of the big deals that we've had this year on some of the economic development and just a lot of things, we have partnered and done things together that would have been very difficult for either one of us to do individually. And so it was very easy. We got a new sweeper, street sweeper. They've seen it out this morning. It was out early this morning. And our old street sweeper is in not good shape mechanically or operationally, but the county thinks that they have people at their county garage that can work on it, fix it, and make it usable for some of their needs. So we have a resolution authorizing the donation of our old street sweeper to Henderson County Fiscal Court.
Resolution number 41-22, resolution authorizing donation by the city of a street sweeper to Henderson County Fiscal Court, Kentucky.
Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Aye. City manager's report.
The only thing I have to report tonight, we will have a special call meeting on December the 8th at 12 p.m. I don't anticipate that meeting only having 2 items on that agenda, so I think we'll be in and out 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay.
December 8th, Thursday?
Yes.
Are you flexible on the time? Does it have to be at noon?
Tell me what you're thinking.
Any time after 1:15?
Let me check.
Okay.
And let me just say, there may be a economic development announcement that day, so let's coordinate. I'll coordinate with you the timing.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Dawn, I think you have something on, did you have something on foreclosure?
You've already approved that. It was on consent agenda.
Okay, but you don't want to need to add anything? Okay. All right, thank you. Commissioners report. Commissioner Pruitt, have anything?
I'd just like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. You too. Commissioner Staton?
No, not today. Thank you.
Commissioner Thomas?
Not today.
Commissioner Vowles?
Nothing today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. I do have 2 appointments that I'd like to bring forward, and proud of both of these because I think they're going to be very good for our community in the future. Excuse me. I would like to bring forward Eric Gardner to become a member of the Henderson Municipal Power and Light Board of Directors for a term of 3 years ending 11/22/2025. Is there a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
Aye. And the second one is the appointment of Trey Perkins to serve on the Parks and Recreation Commission to fill the unexpired term of Bill Stevens, who was elected to as a magistrate in county government. And he will serve a unexpired term that will run through 9/14/2025. Is there a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt?
Aye.
Commissioner Staton?
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowles?
Aye.
Mayor Austin?
We don't have a need for executive session, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Thank y'all for being